Hey guys, Skill Sessions here. I live in Quebec, so I recently completed week one of our province-wide 4-week curfew lockdown. What that means is that virtually everyone from the hours of 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. are not allowed to go outside their homes. There are some small exceptions. I think people in essential services, so these essential workers like doctors and emergency staff and whatnot, and people walking their dogs for some reason that they're exempt from this curfew, and also some people coming back from the business trip. Pretty much that's about it. There's some other exceptions, but that's the most of it. So yeah, that means everybody other than these people and exceptions are not allowed to go outside during this period from 8 to 5. It's been a week into this curfew lockdown, and I go on this website. It tracks the daily cases throughout Canada, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of any noticeable improvement due to the curfew. Like if you look at my province, it states that today yesterday there is reported 1,918 new cases. And we've always been hovering around the 2,000 cases mark. So right now, a week into the curfew, it doesn't seem like it put a dent into the number of daily infections. Now I'm scrolling down through this list. Sometimes the statistics or the way they present their data is pretty scary. Like for example, look at this, January 3rd. You look at this and you say, wow, what kind of crazy spike is this? 7,613. But then you see it's like over 3 days, so it's not as bad, right? You just divide by 3 and it's pretty much the norm of our province. And it just highlights a little bit of how people or how organizations or governments can manipulate statistics, right? To try to influence the populace. Now, don't go all crazy on me. I'm not one of those anti-vaxxers or anti-mask or anything like that. And I'm not saying don't wear your mask, and I'm not saying don't take the vaccine. All I'm just saying is that you should have an open mind and just question everything. Because before we forget, in the very beginning, at least in North America, in the very beginning when this pandemic thing first came out, the government was saying very strongly, not only that you should not wear masks, they were yelling at people to don't wear masks. They were pretty much mocking them and making fun of them. They're saying that masks are useless. And now they do a total 180 and say, yeah, you must wear masks. You probably should stay indoors and keep social distance of 2 meters at least. Why are they doing that? I thought these guys were like medical experts, right? They're supposed to be experts in health and the specialties, and they should be fully prepared to be able to give us all the right answers in how to handle this pandemic, right? But something very basic that I already know about masks and their effectiveness, they totally ignored and pretty much said total opposite, saying you shouldn't wear it in the very beginning. So why is that? That's very confusing to me. I hope that there's no devious plan in store, but it just really makes people scratch their heads, or people who are thinking, who have critical thinking skills, scratch their head. Why are they doing that? Just like with this latest curfew. The only people who are benefiting from this are the police, because they're having their jollies, right? They're pretty much acting like kings and tyrants. And just recently I heard of a case that some nurses or some essential hospital workers are coming back from their jobs and going home, and they got stopped by the police and got threatened with tickets, because I think the fine is if you're caught in a curfew, you have to pay like $6,000 Canadian. So that's no small change, right? And it's kind of ironic that these essential workers are sacrificing their lives almost, right? Because they are dealing with this on a daily basis. And they finally finish their work shift in the hospital, and they're on the way home and they get stopped by these draconian cops, right? Even though the workers produce a letter from their employers stating, that they have to work during these curfew hours. So it's very sad, and it's very eye-opening, and it's very surprising at the same time, this whole pandemic and how everybody's reacting to it. I'm very glad that some people are talking out. Not too many people, but at least some channels, some big channels that I follow. For example, this channel is called Aaron Doughty. He has like over 1 million subs, and he usually talks about spiritual stuff and how to improve your vibration, all these things that maybe a lot of people who are not open-minded think it's like voodoo and just hocus pocus stuff. But it has a lot of meaningful stuff if you really delve into it. And that's his main topic of discussion for his channel. But I'm glad that he's talking about stuff like the elites and how they are trying to control society and trying to make people cower in fear. And it's very appreciative because at least he's showing his point of view. He's not, like me, he's not 100% sure, but he's questioning things. And I think it's good to have a healthy dose of skepticism because things are happening that are not very easily explained, right? In North America, we still have this mess, and in many parts of Europe, but in Asia, where the most of human population is, there's pretty much things are back to normal. They took drastic measures, right? And they took a lot of good identifying measures, and they just identify who were the people who are sick, and they tracked them. And they had real lockdowns and told everybody wear masks, and pretty much things are back to normal now, right? It's business as usual, and people are walking around. Versus here, we've been in this whole mess ever since what I remember last year of March. So that's 10 months now, right? And still no end in sight, and a lot of things are getting worse. So I appreciate channels just like Aaron Doughty, and also this other channel called Vegetable Police. He's talking about people being crazy to listen to the government. He's more of a anti-masker kind of guy, but still he has some valid points. Why are we listening without questioning at all the government? What's going on, right? And even in the forums that I go to, a lot of people don't really think, and they have this knee-jerk reaction. Like there's this topic asking people whether they're going to take the virus when it becomes available, and everybody, or a lot of people are saying, yeah, I'm going to take it because I'm not selfish and it works and you should listen to your medical experts, etc., blah, blah, blah. But again, the same medical experts told you not to wear a mask, just a few months ago. And apparently these vaccines, that you need to have 2 doses. Like the first dose, they only give you like 54% improved immunity, and only with the second shot, they give you 95%. Supposedly, these are not proven at all. These are all theoretical. And another funny thing is like these pharmaceuticals, they even got a waiver from the governments and anybody using it that they cannot be sued if there's any side effects. So that's pretty scary, right? Usually these vaccines take years upon years of research and testing and preparation in order for them to be released upon market. But due to this unprecedented pandemic, they just basically rushed out this new dose of vaccines and just hope for the best. So it's kind of scary that way. And it's also scary that people would just take it without any question at all. And they're also assuming too. They're saying crazy things like, if you don't take the virus, you're not allowed to get a job, you're not allowed to travel, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's totally infringing upon human rights. And also, this is not the case as well. They're just talking about having a negative test result, and then you're able to travel. And another person that I heard from, I can't remember who, I think it was Aaron Doughty also. He was talking about he has a dad who is a firefighter, and they all got tested because they're part of essential services. And he said, his dad said that his colleagues, some of them who didn't even show up for the test, all of a sudden got an email saying that they tested positive. So that's kind of scary if what he said was true, that the test results have been rigged so that people who weren't even sick or who weren't even available, didn't even show up for the test, got positive results, and therefore they got added to the daily tally. So that's very scary. So a lot of these things make me question, what's going on. Again, I'm not saying I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm not saying that I'm an anti-masker or anything like that. I personally go out and wear my mask. I do my civic duty and make sure that I'm not infected, and then my fellow neighbors and citizens are not affected as well. For sure, if it doesn't hurt, I'm going to take the precautions and then, just cooperate with everybody. But when you have stuff like that going on, it's pretty scary and it makes you question, and you should question what's going on. And that's all I want to say here, because a lot of people are just willingly giving up their control and willingly giving up their freedoms and just turning off their brains and just doing what the government says, even though it's been proven in just the recent past that they've been totally wrong about their stance. And it's kind of scary that people are just not only falling in line with the government, they're just defending them also without any question. For example, they mock people saying that this coronavirus is just a flu. Well, it is kind of like a flu, right? It's within the ballpark. If you go on Google and do your research, it's still within the ballpark of the yearly infections and the yearly deaths, okay? Now, in terms of how infectious it is, it's probably more infectious, right? And the death rate is probably more right now. But in terms of the actual damage, in terms of infections and deaths, it's within the ballpark. It's not scarily way off because, in fact, it is a flu, right? It's within the class of flus. And people are trying to use scare tactics. They're saying, oh yeah, you don't think it doesn't affect you as a normal person in their 40s or 30s or 20s, Look at this guy. He's like 17 years old and he got the infection and like 2 weeks later he died. Well, yeah, of course, if you have like so many people dead from this pandemic, right? You can, of course, how many dead is there right now? I mean, let's go see the figures here. If you look at the total number of people who died right now as of the date of this video, it's like a little over 2 million. Of course, you're going to find some people that are not within the norm. Of course, you're going to find some people, 3-year-old child and a healthy triathlete in the early 20s. Of course, you're going to find exceptions. I think that's why people, whenever they use examples, they're just not really thinking. You have to look at the average. What is the expected average case? And the average case is like these old people who are suffering from pre-existing conditions, right? The vast majority of them. It's like telling me that, of all the people who are electrocuted and killed by lightning, the vast majority of them are killed because they were outside. But you're going to tell me that, this is one freak case. Somebody is sitting in their living room and all of a sudden lightning went through the wall or went through the window and zapped them and killed them. Yeah, I'm sure out of all those cases, in history, you're going to find something like that, right? But obviously that's not the norm, right? The norm is, in the vast majority, is you having the person walking outside doing something, right? In an open field or whatever, and they got hit by lightning, right? That's usually what happens. So similarly, in this pandemic thing, you're going to have the expected usual case of an elderly suffering from pre-existing conditions, and then they got killed by this, or this thing pushed them over and they got killed, right? So it's not the healthy people who are getting killed. I'm sure you can, again, pick up cases, but the vast majority of those are those elderly. So let's not go crazy and just sensationalize everything, right? And that's what all these blind supporters are doing. They're saying things like that. So I don't know. This is a whole mess, I mean, this whole pandemic at least shows that the West is totally clueless and not knowing how to tackle this pandemic versus the East, which had to take relatively stricter measures, but at least they got everything back on track. You don't see people in the East like in the West now. All these small businesses are pretty much dead, right? A lot of them are really on the brink, or if not already bankrupt. A lot of people lost their jobs and their savings are almost gone. The whole economy is a mess, right? And you don't see that as much in Asia. So it's really crazy how everything is happening like this in the West and in North America. And I really hope that they're not doing this on purpose. I don't know what it is. If they're not doing it on purpose, it's like a massive level of incompetence, global incompetence almost, right? At least involving the Western countries. But I hate to be very skeptical on human nature and how some humans, the people in power, can lean towards being evil. And I fear that it's something more nefarious and sinister, instead of just sheer incompetence. Because at the very best, it's sheer incompetence, right? What's happening here in North America. And at the very worst, it's a very sinister and scary plan for the overclass, right? Or the elites or people in power to further control the masses and scare the masses into submission. So it's very scary, and there's like these conspiracy theories going on that this will lead to people having or mentor or being forced to take these vaccine shots, and within these vaccine shots are like microchips or something, and they can do whatever to you, from tracking to getting you killed or not. Well, this is kind of like going off in the left field, but it's something to think about. Being forced to inject something into your body that you don't want, right? That's really something to be worried about, and don't give away your rights so easily. Question what's going on here, right? Don't just because the government tells you to do one thing, you do it, right? That's ridiculous. Or else we will all be in this mess, and we are in this mess basically because they said that a few months ago. They were saying don't wear a mask, and this was what exacerbated or made this situation even worse. Don't have a closed mind. It's very annoying and very sad for people who are closed-minded because they don't think about things, right? They just accept what is presented to them and they just do it like a good servant or a good robot, right? You have to think about things sometimes, and you got to make your own decisions. Be open-minded and don't readily scoff people with opposing views. Sometimes their arguments do have some value and some merit and makes you think, right? So that's all I'm saying. Keep an open mind. Stay safe. Like I said, we're just past 1 week in our 4-week lockdown. And hopefully things will turn out better by the time this curfew is done. But right now, it doesn't look very good, right? We're just 1/4. We're already 1/4 into the curfew and things haven't improved yet. So who knows what's going to happen? So far, all these measures, these lockdowns, all these only keeping essential services open, having curfews and having social distances and masks hasn't really affected the infection cases here in North America, in particular here in Quebec. So I don't know what's going on. I'm just doing my part and trying to stay safe. So that's all I have to say right now. If you have any comments, if you agree, disagree, just leave your comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for further content. And that's it for now. Skill Sessions out. Share, like, comment, and subscribe, because Skill Sessions has the skills to satisfy.